Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Brand Chops, where we're chopping up brands to see what we're made of. My name is Zack Lemear.
And I'm Chris Duhaime, and today we're going to talk with one of our previous clients on how building a strong brand foundation has helped them grow their business. And our guest today is Matt Mercier. Matt is the owner of Acapella Technologies. He provides small businesses with hassle-free IT management and support throughout New England. Thanks so much for being with us, Matt.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure and a privilege.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, Matt, I know that we worked with you on the foundation of your brand, including things like the purpose, the vision, the mission, the core values, dialing into your ideal client profiles and how to communicate it. So how do you feel about that process, and what are your biggest takeaways for your business?
Yeah, thank you for asking. The process was stunning. It was in addition to being a discovery for marketing purposes, it was a real important discussion about my business. I learned things about my business and about your business. It was a terrific process, and just the beginning of the work that we'll do together.
Well, that's great news always to hear. Love to hear that.
What do you feel like as far as like a value, just from the business owner perspective that you got from the process, looking at your business in a different way? How did that end up helping you?
A great deal. We all try to live a considered life and run a considered business. And as we do that, looking at things from different perspectives is extraordinarily valuable. The hours that we spent together around your conference table, learning more and more, explaining to you, having to enumerate for you the things that are in my head, was very enlightening for me, because they were banging around in there. It's a little bit like writing it down. And fortunately, you guys were there to capture the whole thing, and we had the output of those meetings. It was extraordinarily valuable.
Has gaining a clear and focused brand identity kind of helped streamline your business operations and improve efficiency yet? Or have you been able to implement a lot of these things in your daily operations?
Well, we've not been able to implement a lot of marketing concepts or branding concepts in the business yet. But again, as I said, the very process brought some things to light that I was able to consider and give some thought and discuss with my leadership team. And in great and small ways, the whole process has really influenced the way that we run our business.
Is there anything specific that you'd feel comfortable sharing with the audience?
Yeah, the conversations around whatever you call it, right? It's some call it the unique selling proposition, some call it the differentiator, and those conversations really gave me the opportunity to consider the things that make my business unique in the marketplace, and gave me an opportunity to lean into those things, promote our business even without pointed marketing effort. But in my conversations with colleagues and would-be customers just the enlightenment that resulted from the process, and the focus and kind of the point on things that the process provided was, again, very valuable.
I have one quick follow-up question, and then Chris,
Yeah.
I know you've got a question. When you went back to your team to share things like the revised purpose and the vision and the mission and the core values, how did that turn out? And what kind of reaction did you get from your team?
Great question. I literally put up a document that had our then core values on one side in a table, and the proposed core values that, again, were I think we would agree that they were the same values stated differently, and it really provided an opportunity for our team to discuss core values. We're an EOS shop, so we talk about core values, and in literally every quarterly discussion that we have with team members. But this was another unique opportunity at our team meeting to say, which of these do you suppose reflects our company most accurately? And they all had opinions, and all were asked and welcomed the opportunity to consider that and talk about core values and which of the options in each of the 4 or 5 core values best reflected our company. And again, if team members have the opportunity to have those manner of discussions, that the value of that is innumerable. No?
I remember the one core value of yours that I really liked the most was the one that you talked about where you don't want your clients to have to reach out and follow up on stuff. And I
Right.
thought that was a really impactful one. Can you just tell people a little bit about that core value, why it's so important to you, and how you're able to maybe utilize that as sort of a unique value proposition too
Yeah,
for
you bet.
clients?
One of the things, the primary contact point for all of us, we have, as I'm sure I've told you, we have breakfast together every Tuesday morning. And we all sit and we have a level 10 meeting for those of you who are familiar with EOS. And in that meeting, one of the issues that is persistent each and every week is communication. And we get a chance to talk about people come with examples of communication successes and communication failures, which is at the heart of what you're asking about, Chris. The ugly downside when someone is not properly communicated with is they feel like they have to write or call for a status on a ticket or a project or and that what that reflects is the fact that we've not communicated properly because we've left them in the dark, and sometimes proper communication is I'm not going to say ignored or neglected, but maybe not given due consideration in the course of any business dealings. Every time I see an email come through that where someone's asking for a status, we talk.
I love that because I think a lot of companies have core values that they don't really live, and they don't practice what they preach. And I love that. I know that this was kind of always part of what you were doing, but to see you continue to measure success based on these core values is fantastic to see, because I think that's the whole point, is that that's one of the biggest values of having this as a document and having something this is a foundation, because it's not
Right.
just a foundation for your brand, it becomes a foundation for your business.
Precisely. If core values and mission statements and things of that ilk are collecting dust on the shelf, they're nigh upon worthless. When they're an active part of daily and weekly activity, that's where the juice is for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know when you put it in front of them, they all have their own opinion. Do you feel like they're actively remembering the core values? How do you sort of install that in them past the level 10 meetings? Is there any other ways you sort of communicate that with the team at all?
Yeah, yeah. When we have new employees or I refresh. We talk about goals all the time, and sometimes there'll be an impromptu PowerPoint presentation that speaks to plans and goals and vision and values, and those are a part of every day, and quite literally, every time EOS asks us to have quarterly discussions with our uh, team members, um, and those are first and foremost, or front and center too, of those quarterly discussions. There's literally I don't know if you've seen them, but we use a product called
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
90.io, and the very first thing is core values and alignment with core values. So it's called the people analyzer, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a plus or a minus or a plus minus for each and every core value, and the idea is to measure people's alignment with core values. So could they be more front and center? Maybe, but I think since our work with Pivot and our commitment to EOS, core values and mission are far more prominent in the day-to-day operations of our business.
So obviously we're a marketing agency, but part of the point of going through the exercise is operational as well, right? So it's hiring and firing people based on those core values. Have you had any opportunities at this point to either hire somebody based on the core values, or maybe say no to somebody based on the core values at this point?
Yeah, of course. Every hiring opportunity, every interview, repeatedly in any interview process. We have a series of interviews, sort of basic HR questions. Do you have a reliable vehicle? Do you have insurance for your vehicle? Those kind of things. And there's a core values touch there. In the technical, for a technician, there's a technical conversation or evaluation, and there's a touch there. And I have the good fortune of having people that can make a great determination about the cultural fit and the viability of a candidate. And so by the time it gets to me, It's more of a visit than a interview, just to get a feel for cultural fit. And again, at the very center of that is what EOS would call the people analyzer, a plus minus or plus minus as it really. And we really don't hire any people that are minus, because core values speak to culture, and we're extraordinarily uh, diligent about cultural fit. So we check cultural fit in every single interview, and then at a 90-day, people are hired provisionally for 90 days, and at that 90-day review, we touch the core values again.
It sounds like because you have strong core values, you're able to hire people that are able to hire people that have good core values. So it's kind of like a never ending cycle, basically. So just
Well
gives you
said.
that opportunity.
Yeah, and something that we're thinking about doing is finding a way to recognize our staff for exemplifying core values just on a regular basis. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not something we ask them to do, but something that we can do to just not only celebrate them in front of the other staff, to just set that precedent that this is how we operate here, and this is a good thing, but also to make them feel good, and to really just appreciate that one of ours is providing fertile ground. Like,
Yeah,
we have a new person in the office, and I'm trying really hard to pour everything I can into this person, and she's doing fantastic. She's a dynamo, especially for her age, and I'm really really excited to work with her on a regular basis.
good for
But I
you.
also want to be I want to be a huge resource for her, so that I can lift her up as high as she wants to go. That's one of my favorite things to do in general. But I think that she's definitely going to be one of the people that exemplifies a lot of these core values. And
Perfect.
and so we're thinking about making this part of our everyday. But specifically, I have another question for you. Is there anything that stands out to you that made you think about your business differently after the process?
As I said earlier, we all want to lead a considered life, and run a considered business, that's run intelligently and not just going through the motions, right? So the kinds of conversations that we had, where you challenged my views on things, and supported some of them, and vigorously challenged some. And even in those circumstances, right? If I have to vigorously defend the way that I feel about my business, that's a very powerful manner of consideration of what's going on in my business.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell you, or tell our clients that I'm never going to come to the table with something I can't defend. And that's all I ask in return, because it's my favorite is not enough. It's not a good enough reason for me to tell you we should change because I like this better. I always try to have a real reason for it. But we push out of love, right? And we push with kindness in the background and at the foundation of things.
So
But
I understand that fully, Zach. I mean, I felt it in our interactions during the 360 review, and I still feel it today. I'm thrilled to be able to participate in this broadcast, so that I can further consider my business and consider your business. Speaking of fertile ground, these kinds of conversations and interactions are indeed fertile ground for the growth of ideas. Yeah.
hmm hmm
Absolutely. Yeah, I think MSPs in general, it's like so valuable to have a brand because everyone is selling the same stuff. It's just how are you going to be able to sell that in a different way
Right.
that's going to resonate with the audience, that's going to make them feel like you understand what their pain is. And so I think it's super important, especially for MSPs and any companies that are in those really high competition spheres where there's just everybody down the, it's not any different from marketing. There's a
Mm-hmm.
million different marketing agencies. They all have their own unique way of doing things. It's just how can you communicate that well? That as well. Do you agree with that?
Completely. And the thing that I've been able to build over the years is a wonderful referral network. You guys are part of it. Zach made a referral not too long ago, and it's a wonderful opportunity. If we've had a conversation about what differentiates my business, I can have those conversations with referral partners, and it's far more powerful if a referral partner is saying, yeah, Acapella Technologies is different because of this and this and that, much more powerful than if I'm saying it. So
Mm.
taking that message that we designed together uh, to referral partners makes them all the better able to represent our business or refer our business.
Fantastic. So I'm going to try something new that I've never tried. I'm going to throw this out there. I haven't discussed this with anyone yet. So let's see
Okay.
what happens.
Sweet.
At the end of these, let's do something personal. I'm going to give you one personal question. So we'll start with, what is one TV show you're binge watching right now?
That's a great question. I watch, and it's not a new show, but I watch The Big Bang Theory. Uh, it's on almost every night, and when in the void that is other television, I'll always tune into Big Bang and watch it for an hour before bed. Another show that I do binge watch and will again when it comes out is Star Trek: Strange New World. That's been a wonder. If you guys haven't seen it, you need to. It's a wonderful. If you're a Trekker, which I gather we like to be called rather than Trekkies. It's a terrifically written, true to the brand kind of a show. Really fun.
You know, I've never really been a Trekkie or a Trekker. I've never really, but I was thinking about this the other day for no real reason, about how cool and creative and original the Starship Enterprise design is. Like, no other spaceship in any other show is that interesting or different. Like the little plate
Right.
on the top and the little neck and the little things. And it's like, it's such a cool looking ship.
It is.
Um, and you know, like even back then, they had some really interesting stuff. And I don't, again, I know very little about this, but I'm pretty sure like their phaser or something like that was originally like a salt and pepper shaker or something, or it was something weird that they couldn't figure it out, or they had something at the last minute, and then it just became
Sure.
the thing on the show, which is interesting.
I, one quick thing, I think just to tie sort of the Star Trek back to branding. So like you were talking about that ship and the way it looks, right? So if you were to silhouette that ship, you would know exactly what it was, right? And
Right.
that's the importance of branding in a number of different ways. Like you can Home Depot, you know that color orange, better than you might know anything, right?
Right.
Like so things along those lines are super important when it comes to branding. So I think it's funny that even as a TV show, there's a branding element to Star Trek that can sort of translate. And you even mentioned it that it was on brand for
Hmm.
some of their past stuff, right? And that's important for somebody that's really into that.
But I think there have been iterations of the Star Trek universe, different shows that were truer to the brand or truer to the origins, right? And for a whole host of reasons. And I was a fan of the original, and have watched most of the iterations. But this new one, Strange New World, is most like the original in a few different ways that we probably don't have time to discuss. We'll get a beverage some other time and talk about
There you go. I like it.
But yeah, I mean that's exactly what you're saying, Chris, about like branded tributes, you know. And how many sci-fi shows is there, right? If you think about just like the big three, which I'm going to say is Star Trek, Dune, and Star Wars, right? Star Wars has awesome stuff like the TIE Fighter. It's very original, very different. Dune has, I don't remember what they call it, but it's a helicopter that flies like a dragonfly, which is really neat.
I've seen that. Yep.
Instead of the things turning, they flap, and it's just like things that you don't see anywhere else that really help cement a way for you to remember, recognize, and share. And that's important for everyone in the audience to remember that you can do this. You don't have to have a multi-million-dollar budget. It's just finding that one branded tribute. We know a guy that does it with a red hat. It's simple. It's just a red hat and he wears it everywhere. He brands himself around it. He wrote a book about the red hat and all these other things. And you go anywhere and he's the one guy with a red hat. Doesn't even have a logo on it. It's just a plain red
Yeah.
hat. So, but
Hey,
he
for
makes
the
it work.
record, I think it's extraordinarily bold to put Dune in the same sentence as Star Wars and Star Trek. That's guns.
Well, if you're in the know, Dune came first, and Star Wars is basically a direct clone of Dune, but just became more popular. So it depends on which camp you're in. I don't
Right.
know where Star Trek lands in the whole thing. Anyway, Matt, why don't you tell the audience if they're looking for some IT help, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Sure. Our website is www.acapella.com, and that's spelled AC. There's a lot of different spellings of acapella. This one happens to be ACA, P as in Peter, ELLA.com. It's the most common misspelling, but we were pretty careful to spell it that way. Our phone number is 603 647 1784. We have a Facebook presence. We have a LinkedIn presence, and we would welcome contact from any business through any of those medium.
And we'll make sure we put all that information in the show notes as well so that people have an easy way to click it and get to you.
Wonderful.
But again, thank you, Matt, for joining us. I appreciate it. It's been great to interview you. And for everyone listening, tune in next week to see what happens when we chop up these brands and see what they're made of.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.